Hello family, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a complex and often misunderstood topic, why Africans don't seem to care about Black Americans suffering. While it is a dream of many African Americans to connect with their motherland, some of those who have tried to settle in Africa have ended up going back to America. Despite the shared ancestry, the relationship between Africans and Black Americans is fraught with misunderstandings and a perceived lack of empathy. In this video, we'll explore some of the key reasons behind this disconnect. Before we proceed, please take a few seconds to click the subscribe button below to join this family. First, let's talk about the historical disconnect. The transatlantic slave trade forcibly removed millions of Africans from their homeland, scattering them across the Americas. Over time, the shared history and cultural bonds between Africans and their descendants in the Americas were severely eroded. This separation created a profound disconnect. Africans who remained on the continent continued their lives, albeit disrupted by colonialism, while the descendants of those taken faced unique and brutal challenges in the Americas. The forced diaspora led to the development of distinct identities and experiences. While Black Americans built a culture intertwined with the painful history of slavery and racial discrimination in the United States, Africans continued to develop their cultures within the contexts of their varied environments. The lack of a continuous shared experience means that many Africans today have little direct connection to the experiences and struggles of Black Americans. For instance, the civil rights struggles that are central to the Black American narrative are largely unfamiliar to many Africans. This historical disconnect is further complicated by the varying impacts of European colonialism across the African continent, which also diverted attention from the diaspora's struggles. Another crucial factor is the lack of systemic racism in Africa. Unlike in the United States, where racism against Black people is a pervasive issue, most African countries do not have a comparable history of racial oppression. In African nations, ethnic and tribal identities are more prominent sources of social division than race. While there are ethnic tensions, the concept of racism as it exists in the United States is foreign to many Africans. Africans in their own countries typically do not experience the same racial discrimination that Black Americans face. This difference in lived experiences can make it challenging for Africans to fully grasp the depth of racial issues in the US. Furthermore, the legacy of colonialism in Africa, while brutal and exploitative, did not create the same racial dynamics seen in the Americas. Post-independence, many African nations focused on building their identities and economies, often with limited engagement with the racial issues faced by their diaspora. As a result, the systemic racial injustices that define much of Black American history are not as salient in the African context, leading to a lack of visceral understanding and empathy. Many Africans learn about slavery and the African diaspora from books and educational materials. While they may understand the historical facts, the emotional and psychological impacts of slavery and subsequent racial discrimination in the Americas are not as deeply felt. This academic approach can create a sense of detachment from the real, ongoing struggles of Black Americans. In many African education systems, the focus is often on the broader historical narratives of colonization and the fight for independence, rather than the detailed history of the transatlantic slave trade and its aftermath in the Americas. This educational focus means that while Africans are aware of the slave trade, the brutal realities and enduring legacy of racism in the Americas are often abstract concepts. Without a personal or communal connection to this history, it can be difficult for Africans to empathize with the specific experiences of Black Americans. Moreover, the portrayal of slavery in African education can sometimes be sanitized, focusing more on the heroism of resistance rather than the suffering endured, further distancing Africans from the emotional realities of the Black American experience. Cultural differences also play a significant role. Africa is a continent with over 50 countries and thousands of ethnic groups, each with its own unique traditions, languages, and social issues. These cultural differences mean that Africans often prioritize their local and national concerns over those of distant relatives across the ocean. The vast diversity within Africa itself makes it difficult to foster a unified perspective on global Black identity. Additionally, the concept of a shared Black identity is not as prominent in Africa as it is among the African diaspora in the West. For many Africans, their primary identities are rooted in their ethnic, national and local communities. The concept of Pan-Africanism, while significant, often takes a back seat to more immediate social and political issues within their own countries. This focus on local identity can make the struggles of Black Americans seem distant and less relevant. Furthermore, cultural practices, traditions and societal norms in Africa can be vastly different from those in Black American communities, leading to misunderstandings and a lack of shared cultural references. Media influence cannot be overlooked. African media tends to focus on local and regional issues, with less coverage of international affairs, including the struggles of Black Americans. Furthermore, Western media portrayals of Black Americans often emphasize negative stereotypes, which can affect how Africans perceive Black American communities. This limited and skewed representation can hinder empathy and understanding. In many African countries, the news and entertainment consumed are primarily concerned with local and national matters, and when international news is covered, it often centers around significant global events rather than the everyday experiences of Black Americans. The portrayal of Black Americans in Western media can also reinforce negative stereotypes. Images of violence, poverty and crime are often highlighted, overshadowing stories of resilience, achievement and activism. This skewed representation can lead Africans to form a narrow and often negative view of Black American life, further reducing empathy and understanding. Moreover, the lack of positive media representations and success stories from the Black American community can contribute to a one-dimensional perception, making it harder for Africans to relate to or support their struggles. Africa faces its own set of economic and social challenges. Poverty, political instability and development issues are pressing concerns for many African countries. Given these immediate and tangible problems, the plight of Black Americans, while important, may not always be a priority for Africans dealing with their own struggles. Many African nations are focused on overcoming significant internal challenges such as improving infrastructure, healthcare and education, fighting corruption and ensuring political stability. These pressing issues often take precedence over international concerns. For individuals and communities facing daily struggles for survival and progress, the distant and complex issues of racial injustice in the United States can seem less urgent. Additionally, the historical and ongoing impacts of colonialism and neocolonialism mean that many African nations are still grappling with the legacies of exploitation and underdevelopment, further prioritizing their immediate socio-economic needs over distant international issues. Despite these differences, efforts are being made to bridge the gap. Cultural exchange programs, Pan-African movements and initiatives aimed at fostering understanding between Africans and the African diaspora are steps in the right direction. Building empathy and solidarity requires acknowledging and respecting each other's unique histories and challenges. Organizations and movements that promote African unity and solidarity with the diaspora are crucial in fostering a sense of shared identity and mutual support. Initiatives such as educational programs, cultural exchanges, and joint political activism can help to build bridges between African and Black American communities. By learning about each other's histories, cultures, and struggles, both groups can develop a deeper understanding and empathy. Additionally, the increasing globalization and connectivity of the world provide more opportunities for Africans and Black Americans to interact, share their experiences, and support each other's causes. Social media, in particular, has become a powerful tool for bridging gaps and fostering dialogue across the African diaspora. In conclusion, the perceived indifference of Africans towards Black Americans' suffering is a complex issue rooted in historical, cultural, and social factors. By understanding these underlying reasons, we can work towards greater empathy and unity within the global Black community. It's important to recognize that both Africans and Black Americans have their unique histories and challenges, and fostering solidarity requires mutual respect and understanding. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. Together we can continue to explore and address the issues that impact our global community.